was making the most amount of money that I had ever made. My business was the most successful that I'd ever been. I'd spent over 10 years trying to build a business like that. I was waking up with no excitement, no zest for life. So I made a commitment to kind of dive deeper into sculpting and body composition and building more muscle. And I knew I had a smaller window because I was 42, 43 now. So it was like, all right, so every day I've got a goal, and I've got micro urgency, but macro patience. I know that it's a long game and it's going to take time, but I've got something I can go deep in.
I know all of us have a days that you don't feel like motivated or
Found after like 14 weeks, like this whole level of like consciousness came to me. This, like, I was seeing things clearer. My eyes were brighter. Like, it was like, wow, like you don't realize even just putting in some of these things, the once a week, like it's how it impacts, your chemistry.
Dane Palarino, we are live. First of all, thank you for so much for coming to my podcast, and I like to start this podcast recording right away. So we haven't been talking because I feel like that we are always missing kind of that best part when we are talking. How are things and that kind of stuff. Before if I wait before we have already talked about these things, and then it feels kind of awkward when we start talking about those things. So. Dane, welcome to my show. Short introduction, who you are, what you are doing, where you are living, before we start to talk about fitness.
Yeah, you got it, brother. Thanks for having me. So my name's Dane. Brief intro. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. I'm a father of two boys. I'm a husband, beautiful wife, and been married now 10 years. And outside of that, I've run multiple companies as an entrepreneur. My career started off as an entrepreneur building headhunting firms for technology companies. And so I spent 7 years building my first firm, DAP Consulting Group, which essentially built executive level leadership teams for technology companies in the software space. So companies that were anywhere kind of 2 million ARR all the way up to kind of 100 million ARR. We built out those mission critical executive hires. So chief product officers, chief revenue officers, VPs. Essentially, I ended up spinning that off and building a more niched firm in building just a product management headhunting firm. It was the first of its kind, and that was in 2018. And very quickly, within 3 years, we built it into a 7-figure agency. And it was just me and my wife, and we had some people helping us on the back end. But in the course of that, while I was building that second brand, which is called Palarino Partners, I also had a child. I had a second child coming. My wife and I had been married a couple of years, and I had been training kind of 1 hour a day. At that time, my training was just based off of kind of an hour a day at Orange Theory Group Fitness because I didn't have a whole lot of time. So I would just kind of work to the end of the day, fast most of the day, and then go over to Orange Theory. And essentially, the awakening call for me was after doing about 6 months of this class, they ended up doing a transformation contest. And I thought I was in pretty good shape. And they took some before pictures, and that's when I had a rude awakening. I had realized, wow, this is not the body I thought I was in. I had built what I like to say a world-class dad bod, and I was extremely ashamed of it. And so I had recognized I didn't see this coming, but I had prioritized my business over my health. And then I had recognized patterns in my life over the prior year that even though I was making the most amount of money that I had ever made, my business was the most successful that I'd ever been. I'd spent over 10 years trying to build a business like that. I was waking up with no excitement, no zest for life. And I recognized that it was because of the body that I was in. I was super insecure. And no amount of money was going to fix that. And I didn't realize that until I saw that picture. It made me really realize, like, this is why I'm acting the way that I'm acting. In my marriage, as a father, as an employee, I was short, I was aggressive, I was curt at times, and I just didn't have a very pleasant attitude to be around. And Turo came down to me recognizing that it was because the body that I was in, and I didn't like the way I felt.
Yeah, wow, that's a pretty awesome realization. Like I think you are now, how old are you? You are 45 now, right?
Now I just turned 46. Yep.
Oh, 46, right?
Yeah.
That's you. So 'cause I'm 42 and I'm at the moment, like obviously I'm a fitness professional, but I have
Yeah.
also a feeling like at this age, it's like obviously business is important. It's going well, but I realize also for myself like patterns that do I need it more? Like it's my health is it's at the moment at least it is a higher priority than doing the most amount of money. Like I think it's
Yeah.
when I started and when you are a little bit younger, you are kind of trying to get the most money making financially as well as possible. But if that comes, like you said, that you pay price with your health, is it really worth of it? And those are really questions like you gotta
Dig
face
deep and
that.
ask yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it was for me it was my dad got seriously sick at the age of 60, and he passed away at age of 70. That's now over, like it's around 20 months ago.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's still when I think about it like that, if I'm thinking like that, okay, I have 18 years left, and if I think that or something like that, and 18 years ago, like now, if I think what was it 18 years ago, like it feels like that it was just like a yesterday. Not like a yesterday.
Yes.
It's still a while ago, but it time is passing so quickly, and I'm just thinking like if is it really worth of it to trying to make chasing the most amount of money, or if you have basically all your needs, what you need, you have a job what you enjoy doing, you have a place where to live, you can pay your bills, you have everything what you need, but and then to make that extra 10, 20, 30, 40,000 or whatever amount that is per year, is it really
Yeah.
worth of it if the price is sacrificing your health or taking away from years with a quality life at
That's
some point?
that. Yeah, I totally agree. I had always wanted to be the provider and the protector in building a business. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a
Mhm,
lot of time. It takes a lot of resources, as you know, right? It's like you got to create the velocity to get the plane down the runway, and then you got to get it in the air. And then while it's in the air, most of the time you're building and figuring out how to fly it while it's in there.
mhm,
So that takes a lot of your energy and mental capacity. You have decision fatigue by the end of the day. So then you step into these roles where now you're a husband, now you're a father,
mhm,
now you're a business owner, now you've got employees. Now also you're supposed to take care of your health and know how to actually make sure that your body composition stays in a frame that you're comfortable with, and that you feel like you're crushing life. And essentially,
mhm,
like most of us guys after 35, like that last health and fitness, it's like a bottom of the totem pole. And then when
mhm,
we do have time to process it, like we don't it's a full-time job to really understand, okay, like with all the information out there, like what's the right type of training for me? What's the
mhm,
right type of nutrition? Is it keto? Is it paleo? Is it carnivore? Is it carbs? Is it no carbs? Right? Like, so you just get so overwhelmed with information. So it's like I have very little time, number one. Then number two, when I do have the time, it's like I don't know what information to actually put in practice because it's so confusing, right?
mhm,
And so if you don't know what to do, you tend to kind of keep starting and stopping, which was my case. I
mhm,
kept changing. I was doing calisthenics, and then I was doing weights, and then I was doing group fitness classes, and then I was doing uh Pilates or yoga. It was like all these different things. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, they would fade because I didn't believe I was getting the result that I was putting the time into. And so
mhm,
a lot of that has to do with like picking the right path so that you understand, okay, I know that this is actually going to change. All I have to do is show up for it. And then once you see some results, you tend to believe more. And when you believe more, bam, you put
mhm.
the energy behind it, right? But getting to that point is
Absolutely.
pretty difficult when you're a super busy guy. And that
Yeah.
was the problem that I was trying to solve for. It was like, all right, I've got a 3-year-old to have a 1-year-old. This does not scale very well, right? I like not a very pleasant person to be around. I'm definitely not a role model of them. I may be now, but as they get older, they're 5 and 8, they're 12 and 9. Like they're gonna
Mhm,
look at me and be like, this dude doesn't have standards, right? He looks like below average in his physique. So obviously the money doesn't make a difference, right?
Mhm.
Because you're a physical representation of your discipline. So for me, my problem was like, what's the right style of nutrition that I can actually execute on and go deep into, right? So it's not another fade. What's the right type of diet and meal plan and training style that can fit into my busy schedule and one that I felt like I was going to progress in. And so for me, that was where um, the questions started popping in, and I just really started investing a lot of my time and energy at night because the other business was successful. I would have a couple hours at night when my wife would go put the kids to bed, and most of the time she'd fall asleep with them. So I would jump into YouTube videos, figuring out like, how do I change my body composition and how do I
Mhm.
do it so it becomes like sustainable?
Mhm.
And that was really the journey started for me. And that was at 42. And I was about a little over 30% body fat. And between you and
Mhm.
I had depression. I had low energy. I felt like I was 50 because all my joints were achy.
Mhm.
I had an autoimmune issue going on with my skin because I was drinking IPA beers and they were causing some sort of inflammatory response in my immune system. So that was impacting my skin. And it was just like all of a sudden, I had always been somewhat of this
Mhm.
confident guy. And now I'm like, dude, I don't even look myself in the mirror anymore. You know, I've
Mhm.
told myself so many things and followed through on so little when it comes to eating the right way or training consistently. It was like I didn't know what to believe. So I wanted to become a man of standards. And so I had to figure out where I needed to set that bar. And once I identified like the right style of training, and then I complemented it with the right style of eating, it became more of a habit forming practice for me.
Mhm. And what was like when was you said that it was like for time wise and time management? How with all this busyness, what you had, what kind of decisions you have to make, and what kind of time management tools do you recommend using?
Yeah, that's a really good question. That was one of the questions that I had to kind of dig deep in. It was like, one, I was waking up with my family or after my family because I was staying up later. So I was staying up later, and when I was staying up later, I didn't have a governor on what I was putting in my body. I was just snacking and doing whatever I wanted to do. And a lot of times that was snacking on the wrong things, either like peanuts that were, seed oils, so it caused inflammation, which isn't great for you, or sugar and cake or ice cream. So I was waking up in this sugar coma. So I recognized like, that habit has to go. I need to set a better nighttime routine so that I can get up early. And early meant getting up before my family. So that was kind of like habit number one that I needed to
Mhm.
install, which was getting up before them so that I had the time to work on Dane, right? Because I knew that this
Mhm.
was going to be a journey of self-development. It was going to
Mhm.
be more about my control of my mind than it was control of my body. Because
Mhm.
I knew with the body I was in, man, it was going to take months, if not years, to really transform. But I made the connection that that's going to be motivation. It's fleeting, but I can change my mindset now. I can change the way I look at things now, and the way I look at
Mhm.
things will start to change. So for me, I started to shift my mindset around what were good habits that I can install that were daily non-negotiables for me, that regardless of the way that my body was responding, that I was going to feel good about what I did. And so for me, that was kind of 5 daily non-negotiables that I installed in my life. And number one was making sure I got up early. So I wanted to get up
Mhm.
before my family. So it started at like 6 and then 5:30 and then 5. And then eventually it ended up being 3:30, 4 o'clock, no alarm clock needed. So I'd have two and a
Mhm.
half, 3 hours by myself, right? And that was the time that I got to really work on myself because I was not in a good mental place. I had a lot of negative self-talk because of the body I was in. So the second thing I did was I would read 10 minutes a day, something super positive,
Mhm.
something that would help me get the right thoughts in my brain and control the way that I was looking at things. So that was number two. And then number three, I recognized my vibration was usually low when I woke up. I was always in a lower state. No matter if I ended at a high vibration at the end of the day, I would always wake up in a low vibration state. So I knew training, going to the gym and sweating or doing body exercises, investing 15 to 60 minutes a day was going to make me a better person. So I made habit number three, sweat first thing in the morning, right? So that was the third thing I did was got myself moving and released some endorphins, got some serotonin levels higher, and that helped me. And then number four was I needed to make sure that it was a lifestyle and not a short-term thing for me, right? Because motivation is fleeting. So I would notice if I was just still doing this fasting or this keto, my attitude and my energy would fluctuate. So I
Mhm.
eventually adopted a macro-based meal plan. strategy, which allowed me to consume meals every 4 or 5 hours. So that always gave me these little micro goals of, okay, I'm going to eat now for fuel, and then I'm going to go be where my feet are, and I'm going to work in a 4-hour work block. And then I'm going to come up, I'm going to have another meal, get the energy I needed, and go back into another 4-hour work block. And then I'm going to have another meal, and it's going to be time to now spend some time with my family. So I'm going to be where my feet are and be present with my children and with my wife, because I hadn't been very present with them the last couple of years. And then the fifth one for me was sustaining from alcohol and vices like pornography or weed. And so those 5 daily habits became the master plan. And every day I just worked on mastering that plan.
No, this it sounds like I got so many thoughts like when I was thinking like that what I'm actually like obviously what I changed like for me was also like it was like 3-4 years ago when I was kind of similar situation than you. I was working out, I was a trainer. I did group workouts, every like occasional stuff what I enjoy doing, but I really never did like some kind of strength training. And then I made a decision that now I need to get started with strength training. And it was not even my goal is not to become bodybuilder or anything, but just to feel better in my own skin. And that was exactly what happened. And it was not like a 2-3 times a week strength training. That was my non-negotiable. And other thing, like you mentioned about sweating, for me it was never about sweating, but also doing some kind of exercise, 15 to 60 minutes per day, nothing crazy, but it could be simply 15-minute walk with my wife after lunch, or some kind of movement every single day. And for me, I think walking is, and especially with my wife, that is like kind of my favorite hobby. That is for it's especially for mental health. It have been enough for our relationship. Like that is the time when we go for a walk. We don't have phones with us. It's time when we are really having like deep conversations and or just some normal stuff. But that is kind of time, but there's no distractions. It's time for us being together. And also with the nutrition wise, like what I love to use, like I hate doing some meal plans or following some strict diet. I'm more kind of a guy like I have a goals like macro based goals. Like I basically I focus only on my protein, and that alone, like I have been able to maintain my weight. I'm not as lean as you probably now. My fat percentage is, I think it's somewhere like 12 to 15, somewhere that range. And it have been there like past that 20 years. It was a bit higher, but that is like my main thing is that I'm trying to get enough protein. I make sure to hit my protein goal every single day. And other non-negotiable, what I have for myself is to have 2-3 pieces of fruit every single day. So to get basically my fiber. And with those two things, it's already a lot harder to get kind of consume too many calories, and obviously trying to eat as much as possible homemade meals and everything what you can. And those are like, for me, I was like that, okay, exactly. Principles are exactly the same. It's just a little bit different kind of approach what have worked for me.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, so like if you do that, a lot of guys, if you just focus on hitting that protein goal and getting a pound of protein or an ounce of protein per pound of body weight, like you're going to find that you're going to be a lot more satiated and you're going to have a lot less cravings, and then you fill in the rest with some other healthy calories. Like there's a lot of different ways to skin it. I eventually, I had this transformation that initially happened within the first 90 days. I got my body weight went from like 30% down to 15%. Right. And so I was like, I didn't look the way I look now, but I felt the way I look. I felt the way that I felt now, which was like, I was more confident. My shoulders are back. I was leading my wife again. I was desiring my wife again. I was looking for those intimate moments that I was avoiding for so long because I didn't feel good in my skin. And there was this moment of like, I stayed at 15% for a while, but then I would recognize like in the gym, all the other guys look the same, and I'd been going there 3 years and none of them had changed. And I looked like them now. I wasn't overweight or out of shape. I just kind of looked average. And I realized like, I know myself. It was like, I'm probably going to get bored of this. And then I'm going to start slowly chipping away and getting back up to that 30%. So I made a commitment to kind of dive deeper into sculpting and body composition and building more muscle. And I knew I had a smaller window because I was 42, 43 now. So it was like, all right, so every day I've got a goal, and I've got micro urgency, but macro patience. I know that it's a long game and it's going to take time, but I've got something I can go deep in. And so I really invested my energy into, understanding how to change that body composition to get into a body that slowly every day I felt like I was progressing better in. And, I eventually got down to 6% body fat and landed on Mr. Olympia's bodybuilding team and really kind of got into a really good place there. So there were some goals that were achieved. Obviously, I stay now around like 10% body fat. Like that's where I feel like I'm getting enough calories to sleep well, to train well, staying lean enough. But it's very empowering when you know how to control your body. And it's very frustrating when you don't know how to control your body and how your body responds to food. So I've learned a lot in this process, and that's allowed me to help hundreds of other men similar to me, like guys that are over 35 that are super busy, and helping them really simplify the complex problem of training, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. And while I do that while holding them accountable and giving them, weekly goals on, hey, here's some targets, and we're going to make sure that we're doing this thing together. So those are some pieces that I didn't have. I did it alone. So it took me like 3.5 years. I condensed now down to guys for like 12 weeks.
No, that's amazing. That is the way how you learn about things when you go through yourself, and you know that, oh, I would now, if I would go back, probably you wouldn't say, I don't know if you would change something, because they are usually, I love to think that they are all, like, even setbacks, they are part of the process and progress, and you need to have, without them you wouldn't have any success. So they are part of it, but now, like, obviously, if you are teaching it for someone else that don't do this or don't do these mistakes what I did, so you get there's a shortcut what you can take, save so much time, so much especially mental energy, and that to avoid same mistakes. So what was it for you? I'm curious. Like, I have never been a single digit fat percentage myself, because I know what it would take. And somehow at this point in my life, it was kind of my goal to have a visible abs, and we had a kind of bet always with my body that because I'm originally from Finland, and we have it's the biggest party of the year. It's a midsummer party. It's end of June, and we wanted to get always visible abs or six-pack abs by midsummer, and it never happened. And obviously, when I was in my 20s, the reason was I was a professional athlete, but working very hard from Monday to Friday, like 2 times per day. And then weekend was a long weekend, one night between Friday and Sunday. So you don't have to wonder why it never happened with all alcohol and everything what was at the time included. And now I know what it would take. But somehow at this point of my life, it's really not worth it. I'm happy where I am at now with my energy levels, everything. And I like to include a little bit kind of freedom in my life, and to have like sometimes having a beer, sometimes having a cake and sugar stuff, what I enjoy doing. But not and it's not taking over everything of my life, that I only live for fitness or having those kind of visible apps, and having my as low, like getting on stage or something. So how was your experience when you got in so low fat percentage? Was it worth it?
It was worth it because of what I learned, for sure. Like I had, like there was, from going from 20% down to 15%, there are compromises you have to make. You have to start slowly, because you're generally eating pretty healthy if you're at 20%, 18%, 15%. But then you slowly have to start realizing there are some things I got to pull out, like the granola. All right, I got to pull out the granola bars now. So that's a compromise. I really enjoy that afternoon granola bar with the protein shake, but I know that there's probably some inflammation happening from that. So let me pull that out. And then at night, it was like yogurt. Let me pull that out because dairy, right? So you start to realize little things, little compromises you have to make with yourself in the food selection, right? Flavor for fuel. And so each body fat percentage from 15% to 14% to 13, the compromises start happening. and you have to get comfortable with those compromises on exchanging more
Mhm.
foods to put in more optimal foods.
Mhm.
And then when you get down to kind of 10%, it really becomes a mental game. It's a mental
Mhm.
game of, can I eat consistently every day, almost the same thing every day, to give my body the ability to stop storing food and really turn my body into a furnace. So
Mhm.
that became like, when I got down to kind of 12%, I hired a coach. And I remember he gave me a meal plan. We were going to do the bodybuilding competition. And at this point, I had variety in my meals. They weren't the same thing every day. I was just working a macro-based meal plan, and I just ate whatever I wanted within those
Mhm.
macros. But I was stuck at like 12%, and I couldn't figure out why. And so I hired this coach, and he gave me the meal plan. And I remember looking at it, and it was one page. And so I'm looking through the email, and I'm like, where's the rest of the week? And I'm
Mhm.
like, so I email him. I'm like, hey, I only got one day. Where's the other days? And he's like, that is the plan. And I'm like, I'm supposed to eat this every day? And he's like, yep. I was like, you're shitting me. It's
Mhm.
like, I'm supposed to eat these 5 meals every day. And he's like,
Uh-huh.
yep. And I was like, he's like, how do you think your body is going to have the most optimal chance to really start getting into those stubborn fat areas? And he said, this is what the pros do. And I said, okay, so I'm now going to take my game from amateur to pro. And so I started eating the same thing, and you spice it up with flavor and with spices. And at first it's like monotonous, but then it becomes like religion. You count on it. The consistency and the dependability and the predictability that you start to have, you start to fall in love with. Like people don't like being in the military or army, or some people do,
Mhm.
but all of them love the routine. Wear this
Mhm.
outfit, be here then, show up here, do
Uh-huh.
this. So it was like I started to fall in love with that. So I was like, I really embraced kind of eating the same things every day and looking forward to
Mhm.
it. And it really shifted the mind from, I'm no longer eating for flavor. I'm totally
Mhm.
eating for fuel. And at the same time, I'm feeding my gut things that are optimal. So they're really, my body's always burning fat. Like I would sweat during meals. And I really got into that. It was like, dude, I'm 45 years old, and most guys can't get rid of like a pound. I'm like sweating and burning fat and
Mhm.
seeing my body change every day. And that became addicting. I put more pleasure to that than I did pain. But down at 6%, when you're down that low, you're not sleeping as well. You're more prone to get
Mhm.
injured because you're not being able to train as hard. So it's not really
Mhm.
optimal. I was there for like maybe a month or two.
Mhm.
And then I was like, this isn't where I like to be. And I kind of got up. I slowly did a reverse diet and came out of that, and
Mhm.
then picked like, here's where I really feel comfortable. Like I feel good in my clothes. I feel great in my skin. I've got enough energy. I sleep really good.
Mhm.
And that's generally around 10%. But
Mhm.
the short answer is I learned a lot, and I understood exactly what foods were optimal for me and which foods were
Mhm.
not.
Mhm. No, I mean it's exactly like those kind of experiences what I have heard. Like obviously never went through myself, so I can't really say what it takes. But and that's honestly, I'm very good with myself. I don't, I'm not at the moment, who knows what happens in future, but at the moment, I'm not willing to, or I don't have that kind of discipline or willingness to sacrifice so much away from my life. And yes, that
Yeah.
is not that important for me. I'm feeling very good, like, because as you mentioned, like for me at the moment is more important to perform well in my workouts, having kind of good energy levels, sleeping
Yeah.
well. Those are more important than aiming to get that like one photo shot or on the States or whatever the goal is to get like a leanest. But I totally get it. Like it's kind of usually it's like a one time kind of thing in a life, or you don't do it, you don't stay there, you don't try to stay there like all the time.
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, but what happens is you really start to like when you pull sugar out like I did, because all sugar comes out, all
Hmm.
alcohol comes out. There
Hmm.
isn't that one day a week where you're having a cheat meal or a cheat day. You're just literally kind of executing every day consistently. Like I found after like 14 weeks, like this whole level of like consciousness came to me. This like I was seeing things clearer, my eyes were brighter. Like it was like, wow, like you don't realize even just putting in some of these things the once a week, like it's how it impacts, your chemistry. And so those were some of the really cool things that I experienced. And then I eventually like wanted to live a normal life. And so I now have at least 1 or 2 cheat meals a week. And that
Mhm.
includes like things that I enjoy, like a hamburger or tacos or steak, in made different ways, like in a slow cooker or pasta. But I make it my own and I keep it on the leaner, cleaner side. So I'm not including, uncontrollable fats or seed oils or anything fried. And so that gives me the calorie bumps that I need. We enjoy cake. We just cook it like with applesauce instead of
Mhm.
seed oils. And so we still enjoy low fat ice cream. So I still enjoy life the way that I want, but it's like, it's a controlled environment. And so
Mhm.
for me, dude, that's like I just operate better, right? When I
Yeah.
feed my stomach better, I show up better and I
Oh yeah.
know how I respond to my wife and kids when I don't feel good about myself. And so
Uh-huh.
that's my major drivers. Like it's my way of just kind of staying within the guardrails.
Uh-huh.
But I teach guys like everyone has their own goals.
Yeah,
Once
absolutely.
you know how to control it, once you know how your body responds to things, then you set the guardrails for your
Mhm.
own life and what works for you.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing, I think, that the takeaway is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is like it's the pretty amazing realization. Like what you said earlier is that how your body, like how it felt, and like you sacrifice quality of your workouts from your sleep. So being that low fat percentage or being longer time in a deficit, that's a huge stress for your body. And
Yeah,
even and of course it's mental thing also, but also physically it's a huge stress factor for your body, and that's why it's not meant to be, or you shouldn't be there for rest of your life.
totally true. Yeah, because you're doing twice, like to get down that low, dude, you got to do cardio post workout. You got to do another cardio session later in the day. You're having less calories than ever. You're not sleeping as much. You're getting up, peeing a lot. The only benefit is like getting up and you just keep seeing yourself more and more shredded and you're seeing
Mhm.
more and more veins and more abs. You're just like, all right, like this is cool, but eventually you're kind of like, all right,
Mhm.
I don't need to look like this all the time. For
Yeah.
me, I was doing a bodybuilding show, so there was a reason that
Uh,
I was driving myself that way. But I had a guy this morning who I hadn't seen in the gym in a while, and he's like, "Hey, man, you doing a show?" And I was like, "No." Or I've been launching Sculptors for since last year, and when I did this bodybuilding show, it was 3 months into launching the Sculptors company. And it was like the business was getting busier and my energy was getting lower. So it was this really
yeah.
big mental game of like, I was burning the candle at both ends. And now being here, I've just continued to build muscle again over the last year. And this guy's like, "You gonna do a show?" And I'm like, "No, man, I just don't have the mental capacity because the business is, I've got almost 100 clients. The business is super busy, running in the family and the kids are in school. It's like, so I know my mental happiness is more important than putting myself on a stage. I didn't want to be a bodybuilder. I just wanted to live a life like a bodybuilder,
Mhm.
because I respected the amount of work and discipline that went into the whole big picture, right? To build
Mhm.
muscle after the age of 40, like it's a
It's not
lifestyle.
easy.
Everything's got
Yeah.
to be dialed in, your nutrition, your water, your recovery, your training. There's so many
Mhm.
areas where you just got to kind of have it on point. And I just do really well with goals like that.
Mhm.
And so that's my goal. It's always, as I like to say, be within striking distance of a stage, but not actually have to get on it just
Yeah.
yet.
So no, it is true. Like you need so much. So what kind of techniques or tips you would have someone trying to develop that mental toughness and staying motivated through all these kind of challenges? Because if something is sure that something, if you're living a life, there is always happening something,
Yeah.
and things usually don't go as planned.
Totally true. Yeah, one of the biggest things that I live my life by is control the controllable, right? So when I go back to my
Mhm.
days, I can't control the way work turns out sometimes. I can't control things that pop up in my life. There's so many things that are unpredictable. So the only thing I can control is my mindset and how I respond to things. So that's why the mindset piece of it is so important. Controlling the controllable, how you respond to things is super important. So the stronger that you make your mind, the stronger person you'll be, whether it's in the training aspect or the nutrition aspect or the father aspect or the husband aspect. Like that piece of it is really critical because you want to be able to control how you respond. So for me, those 5 daily non-negotiables that I was talking about earlier, those set me in just a position of strength every single day, because things come at me all the time. But because I've gotten up early and I know that I've done that for myself, and I've read the right things, so I got my mind with momentum towards attack versus defense and react, right? 3, I trained. So I did the hard thing in the morning, and I got myself to say like, hey, you did the hardest thing of the day already, right? If you went and squatted 235, 200 times this morning, and it was leg day, you could handle 5 or 6 tasks today on the computer, right?
Yeah.
You could handle an extra phone call to the client to have a difficult conversation. So training really translated into more success in my other business, that 5X. And then it even gave me the idea, like when you get so aligned in your life, like I believe ideas are given to us. They're not conceived, right? But you have to be in a place where you're ready to receive that. So when you finally tell the world, I'm ready, right? I'm open, I'm prepared, I've done the work, those are when the greatest ideas are downloaded. So for me, like the idea of even starting Dad Bod Sculptors was never an idea when I started this journey. It was a journey of like personal development just to fix Dane. But eventually I realized like, dude, that test, one of the biggest tests in my life, one of the most troubling and challenging moments of my life, turned into be the greatest testament in my life. I've helped hundreds of other men because of that challenge, right? And it was because I got myself in a position to be able to receive that mission and purpose of going out and delivering this experience that I had with other men. And that becomes relatable and it becomes valuable to them. So I would encourage everybody that you just have to win the day. You know, you have to win the morning, like get up. If you miss the morning workout, you got another chance tomorrow, right? If you miss the workout, you got another chance tomorrow. If you miss the meal, you have another chance in 4 hours. If you have a drink, you have a chance again tomorrow to not do it. And every day you reset, right? And every day becomes a mission to where it's like, hey, I got 5 things to focus on today. Get up early, put some positive information in, make sure I take care of my body, make sure I feed my body, and make sure I don't poison my body. Like you do those things for yourself 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, you become such a more productive and confident individual that when shit gets thrown on your plate that you weren't expecting, it's like, all right, I got this, right? Like, because I know how to show up for myself. I know how to handle business, right? So I'm going to look at this problem just like every other problem. And literally that has allowed me to build 2 7-figure businesses in parallel. Dad Bod Sculptors and my other company, while also being more present for my wife, being the hero to my kids, being accessible to all these men from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. It's like I didn't believe I had time to even find an hour a day to train. And now when I got those habits right, you won't believe how much more productive you become and how much more resilient you become. And for me, it's about serving the world, right? Everybody doing their important to serve the world and be selflessly. When you put those habits in place, you're in a much better position to serve the world because people are curious about how the hell are you doing all that? Like clients are always like, do you sleep? Do you ever get sick? Like, what the fuck? You know, they get all annoyed. And it's like, yeah, of course I do these things, but they're not as important to me as they once were. Because when the mission is bigger than the man, the energy tends to be found.
Yeah, and it's also like if you are able to do like often what keeps talk like all those things what you are doing, like of course it takes some discipline, and I know all of us have a days that you don't feel like motivated or you don't you don't feel like doing those things. But if you said like for me, or what was a game changer for me was earlier I didn't plan my workouts. It was kind of I trusted my motivation, and more often than not, my mind it found always some
All over the
excuse
place.
to like there was like 1,000 excuses to not to work out. And especially like because I'm a person who naturally I don't enjoy lifting weights or something. If I'm like I mentioned, I'm ex ice hockey professional, and if somebody's asking me to play ice hockey, playing tennis, some kind of ball sport, or going for a walk, those I'm right away. Though I'm going right away if I have chance. But if somebody's asking that or telling me that you should go to gym, there I'm like that. There's no way. There's no way. I need to put it into my calendar. I need to set it like act it like it's a non-negotiable event for myself. And I never like even then like you know yourself better than anyone else. And like I know myself too that I really need to. I'm trying to still talk myself out of doing it, like that, finding some things that busyness with the work or whatever. But it's the thing what changed for me. What have been a game changer was that I never promised myself to finish my workout. I only promised to get started. And
Yeah, that's good.
I tell that I need to just get in there. I need to do one exercise. I need to do
Yeah,
one set. And then if I feel like that, I don't need to do anything more. And that has been like, obviously every day I'm not finishing my workout. There are days that I work out 15 minutes, 30 minutes when I should work out maybe 60 minutes. But
yeah,
more often than not, when I know that when I get myself started, I will also finish it, and that is then, if you look back, that's how you stay consistent, because it's not about perfection. It's more what
progress.
matters more, because that was like, especially with the athlete background, and I still see it working with some athletes, that it's that kind of mindset that if you don't get in 1 hour workout, 1.5 hour workout, it's not worth of it working out for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And now after 40, I'm like that, holy shit, I would be happy to have a 1.5 hour workout, but
Yeah,
it's never gonna happen. So
yeah,
I gotta stick with those not longer than 60-minute sessions and doing them more consistently. And even if I don't have time for that, then it's doing 20 minutes, and that's, call it that, for a day, and repeat it next day or next week, but to having at least those 2 strength sessions per week, that is kind of bare minimum for myself, what I set those standards for myself to kind of bare minimum what I need to maintain and build muscle.
that's right. Yeah, I think what you said is like there are days where you don't feel like doing it. There's a lot of days, right? And so for
Mhm.
me, I always go back to this saying that my coach had taught me, that the work instills the worth, right? And so
Mhm.
I'm like, I want to feel like I'm worth it, and I want to be able to treat myself like I'm worth it. So I always go back to the work. And for me, the work is the habits, right? So I always get up naturally early. Then 2, I always read.
Mhm.
And then 3, the workout. But sometimes the workout, it's like if I'll get caught up in the morning with some work, and now I'm like, oh shit, I only have like 40 minutes and I got to drive to the gym 10 minutes and I got 30
Mhm.
minutes. It's like, should I just skip it? And it's like, no, go there. So I always say there's 2 things that make a great workout, whether you have 15 minutes or 60 minutes: intentionality and intensity, right? Be intentional about what you're going to do when you get there, and put everything you got into it, right? With intensity. And if you do that for 15 minutes, or you do it for 30 or 45 or 60, you're going to have that release that you need. You're going to be able
Mhm.
to put that into the energy. And my kids started school recently, and I always try to be back to bring them to school. My wife do that together. And I realized like, oh, I'm only going to have like 30 minutes. In the first week, I was realizing like I wasn't going to have my 60 minutes that I needed for myself. So I just go
Mhm.
in there and I start supersetting and just kind of being super intentional about, okay, I'm going to be in here and I'm going to push and I'm going to pull and I'm going to push and I'm going to pull and I'm going to give myself 60 seconds down. And I'm going to be super intense. And even though it was only 30 minutes, I walked out like, bam, like a whole new man. So that like, all right, I did it. I didn't have the hour that I wanted or the 90 minutes, and I didn't get the cardio in. So I had grace with myself, but at least I took care of business when I was in there. So if you're going to show up, like the biggest encouragement that I would give people, be where your feet are, right? Like if you're in the gym, be in the gym. Put your phone down, stop thinking about work, stop thinking about what you
Mhm.
got to do or you didn't do. I got 15 minutes. Let me get after it, right? Let me do some
Mhm.
burpees for 15 minutes. Let me do some burpees and pull-ups. Do something, because if you just do that for yourself, you'll be in a much better position to serve all the other things that are coming at you in
Mhm.
that day. So that is a big belief of mine, that the work instills the worth, and
Mhm.
it's just about being intentional with intensity.
Yeah, and being, like you mentioned, being present, what you are currently doing,
Yeah.
like that is for me, that's huge. Like, and I still struggle with that myself. Like sometimes when you go to workout, you think some other things like a work or whatever is going on, and then it's like
Checking
now
your
stop it.
email and checking
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram, and yeah,
Or
I've been
and then
there.
it's like that. Stop it, stop it. Now
Yeah,
it's time to
that's right.
work out and not think about other things. Those things come after, and then when you
Yes.
have finished that workout, then it's you have a lot more energy to actually
Yeah,
accomplish all those things. And it's not
totally,
the
man.
and that is the, I think for me it's the biggest game changer was like telling myself in the beginning that I don't have time. But then when I think that if I have a 4 hours time to do my work, but if I include 30-minute workout within that time, I'm getting more done within those 4 hours when I have done that workout before. And it's for me, like for me also, I know myself, I must work out first thing in the morning. Otherwise, I will not do it.
That's right. I've done it in the afternoon. Like in the summer, it was a little unpredictable because the kids were home. We were up later because of daylight savings time. I was going to bed a little bit later, and so I was training in the middle of the day. And it was like by then I had employees looking for my attention. I had clients messaging me, and I felt like I needed to be needy. So the workout was never about me. And I realized, like after a couple of weeks, I was like, 50% of my workouts sucked, you know? And I was like, why? And then I look, it was like, because I'm messaging this person because I only have a small 1 hour window to work with my designer on this project. So I'm having to do it while I'm training in between sets. And I'm like, yes, I was there, but I wasn't really there, you know? And then that leaves me being in a poor mood the rest of the day. And literally my battery's just drained from decision fatigue because I didn't take care of myself. So I like, the kids went back to school and I can't wait because then I get the reset and it's like back to the mornings. So I'm up now 3:30 so I could be at the gym by 5:30 and back home by 7:30. And so it's like, I don't care if I have to get up a little bit 30 minutes earlier and kind of get the meal in and get the reading in and get the training in because I'm ready for this. You know, it's almost 10 o'clock here. I've had a client call overseas. I've had a workout in. I've had a meal, 2 meals already. I've read my book. I've met with my kids. I sent them off to school and we're doing this podcast and it's not even 10 o'clock, right? It's like, so when people say they don't have time, it's like, no, you make time for the things that are important to you.
That's so true. Yeah. That's so true. So what is then, is this like something like for someone who is a busy professional and what kind of strategies you use or you like to maintain your health and fitness in the long term?
So long term, I think the question is, how do I suggest to a client to like maintain their fitness so it's a lifestyle and not a short-term fix? Yeah. So a lot of guys that come to us, they've tried a lot of other things. Like they were me 3 years ago, where you had tried a bunch of different cookie cutter programs, you had tried a bunch of different diets. Right now, most of them only eat 2 meals a day because they try to fast most of the day, and then they're super busy, so they only eat 2 meals, and they're like, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. So the first thing I make them realize is as we get older, our metabolism slows down, right? What worked for us when we were 18, 19, or 20s doesn't work for us in our 30s, 40s, and 50s. So we have to take our body from a storage unit, right? Essentially where it's storing calories and food, much like a bear does in hibernation season, because it doesn't know when the next meal is coming. So it's holding on to these foods longer. And we need to turn it into a furnace. So the first thing we do is identify like, hey, well, let's talk about your schedule. What time are you getting up? What's your busy day look like? When do you go to bed? And we really evaluate how much energy they need throughout the day and how many meals we can get into that day for them to make it seamless and simple with whole foods. Because these guys don't have time to be spending 2 hours a day in the kitchen or 3 hours a week, doing meal prep. So it's got to be super simple like it was for me. So the first thing we do is understand their schedule, and then we schedule in, okay, you're going to wake up at this time. You're going to have meal number 1 at this time. You're going to have meal number 2 at this time. You're going to train at this time. And we literally just calendar it for them. We tell them exactly what to train, when to train, and how to train it. We calendar in what you're going to eat, when to eat, and exactly how much to eat. So the decision fatigue goes away. They've got the blueprint. We tell them exactly now that they're eating the right things and they're training the right way, we can optimize you with some supplementation. So we're going to tell you exactly what supplements you need to be taking, ones that are actually going to get absorbed and help with this process. And so we bake that in. You're going to do this first thing in the morning, and you're going to take these supplements, and that's going to help speed up your metabolism. That's going to help better with digestion. That's going to help better with recovery. And then the last piece is making sure like, hey, that we're building muscle, because after 35, as you know, we start to decrease in our muscle mass. And most men want to feel manly. They want to feel like a man, and muscle makes us feel like a man. And so we always want to make sure we're not just getting you skinny fat, dude. We're not just pulling off all the fat and then you end up in this frame that you're not comfortable with. We're going to focus on building a foundation of muscle while also stripping the fat away. And the way that we do that is low intensity cardio that's very strategic in time throughout the day and throughout the week. And we're going to couple all that so that you can be in and out of the gym within 60 minutes. And so it's all calendared for them. They know, all of that is laid out for them. They know what to train, what to eat, how much cardio to do, what supplementations to take. And if they ever get stuck, they have me in their corner because I live this life. So I do it with them. Right. And so they message me every day if they have any questions or ever get stuck. And then I also hold them accountable. So every Friday, like today, I have almost 100 check-ins, right? Every Friday, every guy gets up and they check in with me. They take their progress pictures, they do their weight, they answer a bunch of questions about their sleep, their digestion, their recovery, their energy, their challenges, their compliance. And that gives me the weekend where I'm able to calibrate and give them all feedback to say, okay, hey, this week it was a compliance issue. We're going to work on this week, right? To make sure that we can get a little bit more compliant to get better results. Or John, you were 100% compliant, but you're 9 weeks in. We're going to change up the protocol here on nutrition. We're going to tweak it on training. We're going to readjust so the body responds better. And we do all of that in our coaching app. So it becomes very seamless for them. They have one place where they can go and have all this access. And then they've got one person that's in their corner holding them accountable every week. And one of the best things one of my clients said to me was, he goes, do you know how many cookies I don't eat during the week? Because I know that I got this check-in on Friday. And he's like, just that alone, because somebody's going to be interested in your journey. And for me, that is what I've built is what I needed in my journey. I basically said, I'm going to go build the best version of myself, and I'm going to deliver that to people because this is the person that I needed on my journey. So that's what my whole program is about, giving these guys the best version of me so that they understand that I'm always raising the bar in my life, and I'm always going to be helping them raise it in their life. And then lastly, everybody wears a Whoop. Everybody gets a Whoop, which is amazing because it allows us to track their data. So I know how hard they're pushing in the gym, how well their body's recovering, how their body's adapting, and the quality of sleep that they're getting. So we're really able to tailor this thing so that every single week our clients see progress. There isn't a week that goes by that they don't see the scale going down, the energy going up, the attitude getting better. And if they get stuck, we're figuring out, all right, let's dissect this. Let's look at this. And so that gives them two things. It gives them results that they want, but it also gives them the belief that, hey, what I'm doing is working. And when we tend to see that what we're doing is working, we tend to believe. When we tend to believe, we put a lot more energy behind it. We find time for things that we believe in. And so that's the trick, man. Those are the keys of the kingdom.
No,
and then that whole thing is like, the whole point is that is something, this isn't a 15 pound summer shredding program where they don't understand what to do. They know exactly what to do, how to do it, but most importantly, why they're doing it. So it becomes a lifestyle for them.
Amazing. No, this sounds, I absolutely loved all those methods, and especially with the controlling, like having able to see, like if you are tracking your sleep and recovery, everything. So, like obviously those things like trackers, they are not 100% accurate, but they give you pretty good estimate to know what is actually happening, and learning from trends, like what you are doing, like how is like alcohol is affecting to your sleep, how is hard workouts, how they affect to your sleep, are you recovered, is today time to push yourself, or is it time to do kind of like a mobility or easier workout for your body? So those are kind of all things what I love using too, and especially taking for myself and obviously for my clients too, like understanding that every day is not the time to push yourself, or every week there are some other higher priorities, like for your sleep or something else. So
you avoid injury, which is the most important thing at our age, right? Because my biggest thing when I got into it was like, I wanted to do something that was controlled environment where I can control not getting injured, or at least minimize the risk of injury. Because if you get injured, that sometimes takes the wind out of your sail. You don't have a lot of more runs at this thing.
Yeah, and that's why, like I I didn't, first of all, I didn't know when I was younger what is mobility workouts or that kind of things. And I was thinking like that it's not worth of my time. It didn't feel like I was working out because I was chasing feeling like that I need to feel exhausted or tired after workout. And now if I think like the biggest game changer is to include like not hour longs, but part of your warm-ups, cool downs, some kind of mobility work. And that it makes you like I struggled with the back pain, and it's just the key to stay healthy and to not get yourself injured. Because what is more frustrating that you work so hard, kind of you are overtraining, pushing yourself hard, but then you are like once in a month something, you have your shoulders or knees or whatever back pain, something is hurting, and then if you can't work out, what is the point? You are having some pain, and that's like older you get. Fun. It's more you have to pay attention, all these kind of things.
Yes, totally true, man. It's so important. Yeah, you got to enjoy it, but also like not always have a nagging thing that's bothering you. So you're always kind of operating at 50%. It's like you want to be sore and you want to, feel the workouts, but you also want to be doing it to where you're not, increasing the risk of injury.
Awesome. So Dane, where people can find you?
Yeah.
And how to work with you?
Yeah, so the best place is probably just go to my website, which will take you to all my socials. It'll take you to my Instagram. It'll take you to my YouTube page. It'll take you to my LinkedIn. It'll give you my calendar link to book a call or a strategy chat with me. So my website is dadbodsculptors.com. So just www.dadbodsculptors.com. And on there, you'll see a little bit of information about me, some of our clients that we've helped. And then it'll also take you to all my content, depending on your platform. Like I've noticed some people have Instagram, some people have LinkedIn, some people only do YouTube. So you can access all those channels right from my website.
Perfect. I will add the website to show notes so you can get access right from there. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, man. I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, man. I know that you've got, you live this life as well, and you're super passionate about it. So it was great chatting with you, and I'm honored to be on the show. So thank you for having me and allowing me to share my story.
That was my pleasure, and thank you.
Yeah.